Hey guys, I'm here today with Kavit Haria, and we're going to be talking about how he started his business, his journey into helping people with online businesses, and his journey so far. So anyway, Kavit, my man, where in the world do you hail from?
So my background is quite varied, and first of all, thank you for having me on the show. I think it's such an insightful experience to be able to share whatever I can with people here. So thanks for having me. So I basically grew up in Lagos, Nigeria. So the backstory is that my grandparents are from India. My parents were born in Kenya. I was born in London, and when I was 6 months, my parents took me to Lagos, Nigeria, where my dad has a timber company, and I grew up there. So I grew up there for 11 years. I went to school there, and I also found my love of playing tabla from a temple that I would visit regularly in Lagos, and then I've come back to London, and I continued to study and grow in London, and went to university, did a genetics degree, and then got into the whole music thing.
Okay, so how do you go from music to online businesses?
So I basically started to play an instrument called the tabla. It's a North Indian drum. For those of you that don't know, it's two pieces, and you could either have it as you could think of it like the bongos in djembe and Congo, but those instruments you play with your palm. This instrument you play with your fingers, so it's a lot more detailed, a lot more intricate, requires a lot more practice, I think. And so for years and years, I've been practicing and learning and playing and going to classes and developing myself. But as I grew up in the West, away from India, because I've never been to India at this point, but I'm learning to play an Indian instrument. As I grew up, I listened to pop and jazz and R&B and hip hop and reggae, and that was the kind of stuff that I was being influenced by, because my friends were listening to that, I was listening to that, I would go to gigs for that kind of stuff. Yet here I was playing this Indian instrument. So the one day I had a dream. It was about playing music where I had this kind of beat in that kind of music. How do I have this Eastern music appear in pop and Western music? Now, today, if you listen to many of the great pop songs or R&B songs that are hits, they all include it. At that time, it was very rare. I'm talking about 2002, 2003. So I really wanted that to happen. And I struggled to find other musicians to work with me. And the reason for that was because most musicians will only work with you when you're ready to pay them, or when you can show them that you have a gig lined up, or you have a few gigs lined up, or you have some recording opportunities, because that's where the money is. And if you weren't able to show them that, they didn't really make the time to practice with you, because they had to earn money, they had other day jobs, all kinds of things. So I struggled a lot with self-worth at that time, because I thought, well, maybe it's me. Oh, maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe they just don't want to work with me. Maybe my ideas aren't good enough. All that kind of stuff. And I grew out of that slowly, because I had a music marketing mentor, a guy named Bob, and he would help me to talk and share about the things that I needed to personally develop about my own belief system, which was really unique and important for me at that time. And so finally it made it work. I went out there and I got gigs, and then I went back to practice. So I found the gigs first, and then I found the musicians second. And then we created this new type of music, and we would go out and perform. I performed for a few years, quite often, very, very popularly in the UK, very regularly in Europe. And I also went to play at some big venues and places like the Royal Albert Hall with people like Jimmy Page from Led Zeppelin. So all of that was really fascinating, exciting, and a great part of my music journey. But what happened was, because I was getting those gigs and selling that music and promoting this stuff, people were asking in the music world how I was doing that. How was I getting onto these big stages? How was I constantly getting booked up? And I'm not talking about a lot of people. I'm talking about 15, 20 people. But that's enough for me to start thinking, okay, hey, maybe I could do something with this. And I had a friend who was selling some of his knowledge as a health expert by writing ebooks and pushing those ebooks online. So I thought, well, hey, if he could do it, I could do it. So I thought, okay, let me open up Microsoft Word. I'm sitting in my parents' house at this particular point, and I'm writing an entire 49-page guide on 49 different tips that people could use to promote their music online. And that began the whole journey of, okay, you know what? Hey, here's how I get this information out there to the world. I could put it all into a document. People could download it. They could read it. They could understand for themselves, and they could take that and put that action into their life. So that's what I did. And I started to share it on music forums, and musicians started to share with other people. I had the biggest MySpace for a tabla player, so I shared it there. And it started to grow. And all of a sudden, within 5 months, I'd written 5 different books. all like 15, 20, 35 pages long. One was called How to Triple Your Gigs in 30 Days. Another one was the 49 Ways to Promote Your Music Online. Another one was how to sell out all your records on the internet when you launch. The fourth one was how to be financially independent as a musician, etc. And each one was selling for $20. I'm growing my database to 10,000, 15,000 people interested in this stuff. And then to cut the story short, I thought, well, okay, this is going somewhere. I've got to study more. So I've got to find out what I should be doing to really make this thing sing. Otherwise, I'm just doing stuff and leaving it. And that's not really what I want to be known for. So I go to the library. I learn about business. I learn about marketing. I learn about sales, and my parents have been entrepreneurs. So subconsciously, somewhere, something must have rubbed off. But the real understanding of how to do it, how to operate it, I had to go to the library and I read a lot of books. I listened to a lot of CDs, and Nightingale Conant is a company that you can subscribe to and get loads of stuff and tapes. And I used to do that. And so, and they were cheap. And sometimes, and very honestly, sometimes I would have to purchase them and then refund them because I didn't have the money, but I needed the education, which is interesting what happens. So within 5 years, from 2005 to 2010, I'm growing this business. I'm going from ebooks to like other multimedia, like CDs and DVDs, running coaching programs online, running membership sites, running live events in the UK where I was filming them, creating more product. I had 35 different products selling within these 5 years to 120,000 musicians we built on the database. And the one thing that I really realized was that every single one on that database is a unique individual. You cannot count 120,000 people as a whole big group and mail them one big mail shot and hope they'll buy. Because every time I did that, I would get some sales, of course, but it wasn't like the kind of result I was looking for. And so I learned about marketing automation, which is how do I very specifically speak to somebody based on what they are and who they are and what they know, because I've taken the time to really understand that. And then how do I follow the signals that they're giving about how interested they are, how engaged they are, and then sell them stuff based on that. And, the business did very well. I was very grateful. But I reached a point, and maybe I should stop here and let you speak, but I reached a point before we go into the rest of the journey, but I reached a point where I felt like I couldn't create anymore. Like everything I had and knew about how to promote your music online from my own experience, everything I knew about getting gigs and selling music from my own experience, I had created. Like, I couldn't make another book, couldn't make another CD just to make money. It didn't feel right, and also, like, I wouldn't be putting out new stuff. So I decided that I needed to do two things. One, I needed to stop working 16-hour days and needed to restructure what I was doing. And that meant be willing to let go, which was really hard, because here I was, snowballed into this entire thing that I'd created. It was now making great money. I'd finished a degree in genetics and decided not to pursue that career. And yet I was working 16 hours. And so I had to let go and believe and realize that there are other people that I should bring on to help me with email and customer service and customer fulfillment. And
so you doing this as a solo operation at the time?
Yeah, and the hard thing to let go was no one can do it as good as me because it's my baby. And like failure after failure, like just hiring somebody, they didn't do it well, I let go of them like within a week. And this must have happened 3 or 4 times until I realized and said, you know what? I read a book, actually. The book was called Work the System by Sam Carpenter. And I realized that you have to allow the person that comes in space and time to grow, but you also have to be willing to accept them working at 60% of what you think you might do so that there's room for error, but it's giving you time back, which was really important for me. And so the only way I made myself do that was to say, you know what? One thing I really wanted to do, and this is the second thing, is go traveling. So I booked myself 3 months in Africa, backpacking all across Southeast, up to some of the northern parts of Africa. So there I saw all of Africa. I booked myself another 3 months to go all across India, which I'd never really done. I went once when I was a kid, but apart from that, I've never been. My grandparents are from there, and I backpacked literally the whole of India. And I did a few other bits of traveling. And the reason for doing that was because I had a friend, his name was Derek Sivers. He started a company called CD Baby. And Derek said, CD Baby's been running now for 10 years at this point. And he says, the true definition of an entrepreneur is somebody who can truly leave their business and come back and still be generating the same amount of revenue. And when I heard that, I thought, you know what, that's really smart. And he went ahead, he did it, he traveled, his business was doing great. He came back, he sold it for a huge amount of money. So I thought, well, this could be a great way for me to push myself out of my comfort zone, go traveling, but also leave the business. And so I put in the staff in place. I'd left the business. It was great. I came back. It was doing well. And all of a sudden I was like, okay, what am I going to do next? And so in synchronicity and life works in magical ways, I was invited to speak at a lot of different conferences. I spoke at conferences to do with social media, marketing, how I was creating ebooks, membership sites. And there were 400, 500 people in an audience, in 2009, 2010. And I was sharing with them these processes. And they were saying, well, come into our business and do some consulting, or come into our office and run a workshop. So I started doing workshops, and I would travel to Sydney and New York and London. And for 3 years, I did workshops. Like every year, I would do 2 or 3 workshops in each of these places. And we'd have 20 people come, and they'd spend 2 whole days immersed in learning how to grow a business online. And they would leave, and they would have an exciting time. But when I reflect back on it, and in 2003, I stopped doing it, because when I reflect back on it, people going to workshops and having a great time is okay, but I want them to have like results. I mean, for me, like I had some money from the music business. I was happy. I didn't need to do it for money. So paying me great money to come to an event and not doing anything with it wasn't really fulfilling me. So I decided to stop doing that. And I decided that if there's got to be another way, because I really believe, and I do believe that right now today still, that every one of us has this unique potential, this incredible seed of greatness within us that we're not even living. Like, we have some knowledge, we have some skill, we have some talent, we have some expertise. There's some magic in what we do that we're not exposing to the world because we feel trapped, we feel constrained in our jobs, we feel trapped in our careers, we feel like we should be doing what everyone else is doing. But actually, in order for us to live our best, we have to be willing to go and give every single ounce of what we've got. So I realized that there was people like this. And so we created a different approach to the workshop, which was a 12-month program where I would build a team, and we've now got 8 people in our team. And we take any expert, any coach, any consultant, any service provider, someone who has an idea, through a process. And the process follows this mechanism. The first stage is strategy. We sit down with our business consultant and the client, and we look at what makes you stand out? Like, what makes you unique? What's special about you? And then how do we brand you as an expert? And then how do we plan a course or product or map out an entire offering that you can share with the world? And what's the sales funnel that allows you to do that? And then we go ahead and we give that entire blueprint that we've created in the first stage of strategy to our team. And we have a designer, a copywriter, etc., website, cook, filming, production, etc. And they build the entire business up and launch it within 90 days. And then the biggest overwhelm for most people is like, how do I get started? So now you're up and running, get started. So then we help you do all the marketing. So you're doing paid advertising, social media. We're coaching you on every single aspect. So you push that out into the world. So I've been doing that now for 4-5 years. It's been a really great joy. I wouldn't be doing anything else, actually. I feel like I found something where we're making massive difference. Like, after a year of going with us, a client is out there making a lot of money, reaching 25, 35,000 people with social media, and anyone who's starting from the ground. They're having massive impact. And so what I thought I would do, and I felt like it was about time, was I've been doing this for 10 years. Let me put all of my experiences of how to get an idea off the ground and structure it into an online business and selling into my book, which is what I'm so excited to share. And the book is also filled with lots of different case studies that demonstrate exactly how all these different areas can be built. And so that's where I am today. What a long journey.
That is absolutely amazing. Kevin, if we could go back to like your early stages, what were some of the biggest mistakes you made along that journey?
Yeah, so
especially that. Let's talk about the music business. I think is the best way to start.
So the music business made a lot of errors, and I'm so grateful for those mistakes or failures. Just when I was starting, first of all, I have to say that failures is fine, but getting over failures is the interesting part. So just before or just around the time I was starting this music business, I was gifted a ticket to go into Unleash the Power Within, which is a 4-day event by Tony Robbins. And I would have been about maybe 18 at this point. So a lot of the things that he shared, I was ripe to understand. Like, I was ready to take in my world. I was immediately, like, he was saying it, I was soaking it up. Like,
do you want to ask how old you are now?
I'm 30.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe the math is wrong, but I'm 30 right now. Anyway, so I thought, okay, look, here is, and one of the things that he said was, and this has stuck with me ever since. He says the past does not equal the future. I don't know if you've ever been, but this thing is one of his biggest affirmations that has always stuck with me. So as I started to stumble in the music business, I would always remember this. The past does not equal the future. It's okay to fail, move on, learn from it. So one of the failures, for example, was I created a course called Magnetic Marketing for Musicians, and I ran a workshop, I filmed it, I put it out online, I sold it for $97. It sold well, and this goes back to the idea of segmentation. And if there's business owners listening here, segmentation is so vitally important in your business. You're probably not giving it as much importance as you think you're giving. And the way I know that is because if you think you're giving enough importance to it, you're probably not. Because there's so deep, there's so far, there's so much depth that you can give to it. There's so much direction you can go into it to try to really understand your customer. So what I did is I had 25,000 people on my email list at this time, and I wrote an email and I said, hey, Magnetic Marketing for Musicians, it's available. Go check out the sales page, check it out. If you like it, buy it. And a few people bought it. But I didn't really understand my customer. And this was a humbling experience because people were writing back saying, you know what, this isn't for me. Get me off of your list. How do you think that you know what's good enough for you to sell to me? And so the humbling experience was that I really didn't know my client well enough. And today I talk about a strategy called mapping realities, which says that you've got to realize, first of all, that every person is always in their mind going through at least two different realities. Like as we wake up in our day, we're like, oh, it's what a beautiful day. Or we might be like, oh, this is my life right now. Very quickly, we're like working and we're feeling unhappy and we're thinking about the second reality, which is the ideal reality, which is like, here's where I could be. Here's what I want to believe. Here's what I want to think. Here's what I want to experience in life. So we're going through our current reality. We're going through our ideal reality. And there are steps in between there that we really need to identify as to what we can help someone do to go from where they are to where they want to be. I wasn't very clear about that. Because I wasn't very clear about that, I wasn't able to articulate very clearly to those people that, you know what, I understand that you're here. I believe and can see and I can realize why you're here right now, facing the challenges you're facing. And I want to take you here. And this is the process to get you there. Instead, what I did was, hey guys, I want to take you here. I want to take you right here. I can take you to the ideal life. I can give you everything you want in your life, all the dreams, etc. But I wasn't connecting to where they are.
You're meeting them where they are.
Yeah, and so that was really humbling, and of course I learned and turned it around very quickly, but it was a real wake-up call, and it's so frustrating, and I'm going to just jump ahead for a second, but it's so frustrating to see so many people today are asking, why is their marketing not working? Why are they not able to sell enough of their product? And it's not usually because you're not getting in front of enough people, it's because you're not connecting to where they are. You're not walking the steps that's required to go where they are, and then pull them to where you are or you want to be or you want to take them. Instead, you're saying, hey guys, here, I'm over here. Can you see me? I'm waving my hand. And then bring them over. That's why it's not working. It's not because you're not good enough. It's not because your material's not good enough. It's not because you don't have people to share your work to. I mean, you post on social media and you get 50 to 80 to 1,000 to 100,000 views, depending on who you are. But it's because you're not going out there to meet them where they are. You're not understanding them enough. You're not putting your feet inside their shoes. So I like to rant on this topic a little bit. So apologies for that.
Passion. I love it.
Yeah. So that was one really big humbling mistake. The second mistake came towards the end of that journey because as I said, I got to this point where I thought, how do I create more stuff? Because I've put everything I can out there in that music business. So then I did what I thought was the right thing at that time, which was evidently not. And what I did was I put all my products into one big membership site. And I thought, well, I could write a newsletter to music business people every month, wherever I'm in the world, whatever project I'm working on. That could be a project that I keep pursuing. Like it could be a way to elongate the life of the business. And so what I did was I created a membership site and I offered people the chance to come in and check it out for a month for free. And I put all my best products in there, and I had like 15,000 people join immediately, and most of them just left at the end of it because they got all the products that I was giving away for free. And it was really a sour, humbling experience, and it took me a few weeks to get over that experience because I thought that I was being extremely valuable by giving so much information out, and instead of that, I should have staggered it. I should have released product every month for the length of time they were in it. But I was excited. I was younger. I was learning as I was going, and so that was an interesting experience where I practically lost a lot of revenue, but gave a lot of value. But I was at that point where I thought, okay, I'm reaching the end of my journey with this project.
What does it feel like you reached the end of a journey? Because you seem to be at a stage now where you are progressing with this business. How do you know that? What's the next stage for you after this, rather?
So I think that. What was that?
How do you continue to grow as you are now?
Yeah. So one of the things I'm most passionate about is reading. For me, I have always been interested in reading. Now there's the whole world of audiobooks, which I haven't managed to get into, but I know a lot of people love audiobooks, so audiobooks are fine too. Typically what I do is I listen to podcasts by a certain author that I want to read. So the way I study and the way I grow is I find a topic that I want to do, and I look for 5 books on that topic. I buy all 5 books, and I read all 5 books as quickly as I can. So I'm focused and immersed in one subject. So if I want to learn about running customer service or learning how to meditate or playing tennis, I'll find 5 books on that topic and read it. Typically what I do now is I'll look up the author names. I'll go to podcasts. I'll search for the author. I'll see who's interviewing them. If they've got a really good interview on a really great show, I'll listen to it. If that resonates with me, then I'll buy the stuff. Because normally in a podcast, you typically will get a very nice synopsis of what's being covered. And so it'll give you an idea if you want to buy the book and get into more depth. So reading is a big part of my journey. I'm over the last 5 years, I've become really interested in spirituality, consciousness, awareness, meditation, seeing deeper, self-realization. I found a meditation teacher in India who I visit his ashram regularly. I go on meditation retreats. I do that 2 or 3 times a year. So that's for me time to be silent, to go internal, to think about myself, to think about my journey, to think about how I'm developing as a person, how to be stiller in my mind. I feel like the more we can calm our minds, the more clarity we can define, and the more clarity we get, the more energy we bring into our lives.
How do you do that?
Oh, great question. And there's lots and lots of meditation practices for sure. Yoga is a great experience that starts to form our body in positions. And when we're told to hold the position, we have to pause. That's a great way for a beginner to begin. Of course, then sitting, reading, listening to a meditation audio. Headspace is phenomenal as an app, it's a great app that people can listen to. I recommend something by Tara Brach. She has written a really great book. I forget the name right now, but if you find her on podcasts, Tara Brach, B-R-A-C-H, she does some amazing guided meditations. And really, it starts with being willing to take some time out for yourself. And we don't do that enough. I don't think we do that at all for some of us, but in most cases, we don't do that enough. And if we just take 30 minutes or an hour, Robin Sharma talks about an hour, 20 minutes for mental training, 20 minutes for physical training, so whether that's exercise, going for a run or whatever, and 20 minutes for spiritual training. And that's your power hour, which I think is a great practice as well. So any of these things work for anyone. But the point that I want to get to is that the more clarity you have, the more sharper you're going to be at delivering value for your business, because that's what we're here to chat about. So the more clarity you have, the more confidence you have, the more belief you have, the more courage and certainty you have to get your word out there in the world. Otherwise, you appear unthoughtful or not thought through or unorganized in your thinking. And the success of a business requires clarity.
When you look at building businesses, where have you noticed the most effective methods of growth in the businesses you've worked with?
So the first thing is the person that's the creator or the owner. The creator or the owner needs to be passionate about their idea. Like, you don't want to get into a business to make money and find an idea that's okay to make money and it will make a lot of money just because it's an idea that makes money. It's not really the kind of business that you think is a legacy business, a business that matters. You're not really creating work that matters. You're just going out there to sell something and make a bunch of money. But if you really want to be successful, what I found is that you first have to change your view to looking for success now and in the next 6 months to looking for success in five years. Measure yourself, not today, but in 5 years. That's the first thing. But the only way you can measure yourself in 5 years is if you're consistent every day in taking action on something that matters in your work. Like whether it's your blog or your podcast or your video or your emails to your database or your media or your creation, whatever it is that you do. If you're doing it consistently day in, day out for the next 5 years, then you measure your progress in 5 years, you'll see results. But the only way to be consistent every day is if you're passionate about what you're doing. Otherwise, you'll never wake up alive in the morning thinking, hey, you know what? Oh, I have to go work on that project, or oh, I have to go, like, you don't want to feel like that. If you're going to be successful in your business, you've got to have super energy and passion for what it is that you're doing, and you've got to feel that. So that's really important. That's one thing I definitely look for. Like, we'll sign on 4 to 5 clients a month that we help grow their businesses online. And we have some people that are starting out, and we have some really big media personalities right now as clients. But the one thing that I look for when we go through that process of enrolling them is whether they have that energy around their idea, whether they're speaking and sharing enough passion and value about what they do. And one of the ways to do that is to test whether they've actually worked with somebody. So can you share with me some testimonials of what people have said having worked with you? Because then you know they're willing to put themselves out there. If someone's just got an idea but they haven't put themselves out there yet, even half-heartedly, then I'm still questioning whether they're really ready to go right now. Like, anyone that really is super passionate is going out there and putting out a show or putting out or finding a client and working with a client. They're doing something. Exactly. That's the starting point. Yeah. And the other thing that I look for is their ability to schedule in consistency. Like, all these things are joined together, but their ability to schedule in consistency. And that means, do they have a scheduling mechanism? Are they using a calendar on their phone? Are they using Google Calendar? Are they going to be able to put in time once a week to write that blog post? Because anyone could build a business online, like anyone. But the only way that it could grow to a successful profit and grow to a successful reach and have the kind of impact that we want it to have is if there's consistent approach in the marketing.
With where you're currently, what challenges are you?
My current challenges are typically around time. And I say that because I have a lot more opportunities, fortunately, that fall that I'm not able to take on. And the reason for that is because I've structured my life right now to only work a certain number of hours per day. And then spend the other hours in reading, in meditation, in going out in nature and meeting friends. I also know that there are a few things that are vitally important for me in my life right now, like eating on time, sleep. Like sleep, I cannot even say how important sleep has been in my journey in the last 2 years. Like, making sure I sleep on time, wake up when I'm really refreshed, as opposed to being forced by an alarm clock, unless I have to catch a flight or go to an event or something. But like, it has really created the space for me to have the most impact in a day. So that was always a challenge before, until I fixed that I realized how important sleep was. But right now, I think that the biggest challenge is really making sure that the team that we have and the team that I've built remain loyal, stay consistent, and they have been, but it's really a case of, how do I empower them to suggest more ideas? Because the more that they suggest their ideas, and I always say yes to every idea that they give, like every single idea. I don't think I've said no to a single idea that somebody on the team has suggested, because I'm willing to try it out, because I realize that we work in a world where we can fail fast. And I realize we also work in a world, and I feel very grateful that we work in a world where we're not in a corporate situation where it takes like 6 layers of communication to get an idea approved. So we should try it right away. We should feel empowered to do so right away. So I don't know if there are challenges as such, but definitely I'm pushing myself. I know where I'm going. Like, I feel like if I don't put in the best I can to share the work I'm doing at this present moment with the world, I don't think I'm not fulfilling my responsibility to the world. And in the book, we talk about this line that says, sitting on the sidelines and not contributing to the world is robbing the world of your contribution. And that's really what I'm trying to embody myself.
How do you measure success? What metrics do you use?
Yeah, so for me, success is defined by, I'm going to just read it for you because I think it's written so well, and it's not my writing, actually. It's right on the introduction of the book. Before I start writing, I have written a quote by Benjamin Zander, who is the author of a book called The Art of Possibility. Benjamin Zander is a conductor for the Boston Philharmonic Orchestra, and every year he takes a whole collection of students and he shows them how to perform. And he says, I have a definition of success. For me, it's very simple. It's not about wealth and fame and power. It's about how many shining eyes I have around me. And for me, that is also the truth. And you know, when I share with people, or if I'm doing a podcast, or if I'm doing a talk, and if I'm working with a client, and I'm able to share something or question them or direct them in a certain way, and they're like, that makes sense, or wow, I never thought of it that way. That's success.
That is a beautiful way of thinking of it. Tell us a little bit more about your early childhood. What did your parents do? And I guess what you're doing now, I'm assuming, is very different to anything they'd ever imagined you doing.
Yeah, so my parents, my dad has a timber business where they ship timber from Africa to Vietnam and China. He has a joint business with his brothers, or he had a joint business with his brothers. And I don't know what they truly expected of me, but I do know that it was something to do with accountancy, being a doctor, being a dentist, being a pharmacist, maybe being an optometrist. One of these things.
You must be a doctor or a lawyer.
Exactly. Particularly because it's one of those things that falls in the culture, that you go to school, you study well, you get into a stable job, not a job that's unstable, a stable job, you earn well, you work for 40 years, and then you travel. I'm not blaming this on them. I'm blaming this on the culture. But I also credit my mom for being so open-minded and so willing to say yes to anything we ever wanted to do. So I studied business studies before I went to university at the what we call the A-level stage, and business studies was something that I thought that I should do because it made sense for my dad for me to study business in case I wanted to go in that field of work. It was the only business studies official training that I've ever had, but it feels like it was kind of a waste of time. Because nothing was practical. Everything was theoretical. Like, I don't know how you can build a business or learn how to build a business if you're not in the world building a business. Like, you can learn about models and financial models and structural and strategy models, but the only way to make them really real and internalize them is if you practice them in real projects. So, I did that. Then of course I went to study genetics, and then I had a job for a month, and I realized within that period of time when I was working that I was doing much more effective work, productive work, financially rewarding work in the music business. And so I left that. And I think at that point, they questioned why I was leaving it and whether I really wanted to pursue that field. But I said, look, give me a few months. Let me show you that I can make it happen. And if not, then I'll go and take a job and I'll do this at the same time. And so, they willingly accepted. I was at that point where the first few months for me was very fortunate because I was still living with them. And as I said, I was at university at that point as well. So I moved out to university, but I was still within that safety zone where if I failed, I could still fall back. And so I was very fortunate that all worked out that way.
You mentioned before you structure your days in a very specific way. Can you tell us a little bit more about the logic behind that and what your typical day looks like?
Yeah. So, well, right now, this week, as we're recording this, my days are not following my typical structure. I'm up from like 8, sometimes 7 in the morning, all the way up till 10:30, and I'm literally doing podcast interviews. I'm doing filming for my book trailer. I'm recording the audiobook this week. So all that kind of stuff is really like I've packed it all into a week to make sure I'm fully ready and giving everything I can. But typically my days will start at around 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. And the morning before that is waking up, meditating, reading for a little while, getting any chores done that I need to get done. And I'll really kick off at around 10, 11 when I'm super productive and ready to go.
What time do you wake up?
I wake up around 7:38. I wake up when my body tells me it's time to wake up. So that's usually when it is, between 7:30 and 8. And then, I'll take 2 or 3 hours just to get everything going. Sometimes I'll meditate for sure, I'll read for sure, and then it's really a case of breakfast, exercise, and other things that need to be done around the house, or other pieces of work. And then from 11 to about 4, I'm full on in work zone. So we're talking to members of my team. I'm talking to clients if I'm doing that. I'm writing stuff for the book. I'm working on other elements of projects that I might be doing. Speaking to other people about getting on to other events, anything that needs to be done basically from a work perspective. And usually it falls into 3 things. It falls into sales, operations, and finances. These are the 3 areas that I'm trying to inspire and guide, as well as working with my team. For me, working with my team is the most important out of all of them, because if they know that they're being heard and they feel empowered, they're going to keep doing amazing work. And I'm just driving the ship forward and they're helping me realize that vision. So 11 to 4. At 4 o'clock, I'll come back. I usually will read. I'll have a coffee. Then I'll meditate. Then it's time for dinner. Then it's time for my family. And that's it, really.
It's cool. That's very cool. If people want to get their hands on the book, where can they go?
Yeah, so the book is called Don't Sleep on It. Got it right here. It's called
beautiful.
Don't Sleep on It. Turn your passion and expertise into a profitable online business. It's about, you can read it in about 3 hours. It'll walk you through the entire process of taking an idea and getting it out there in the world. Everything from strategy, differentiation, planning your product, planning your sales funnel to marketing it online. And so you can get it everywhere. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it on Barnes and Nobles. You can get it on Wordery. You can get it on Audible. You can even get it on don'tsleeponitbook.com, which is our website, don'tsleeponitbook.com. And there's a bunch of information there about bonuses. If you're listening to this before June 26th, then you can get a whole bunch of pre-order bonuses as well. So yeah, anywhere you want, but just get it. Make sure you read it and give me a review. Let me know what you think. I'm also on Instagram, as you know, so at Kavit Haria, where I share every day. So lots of videos there every day.
All right, guys, you heard it here first. That was Kevin Harriet, Kavit, and his book, Don't Sleep on It. Until next time, we'll see you all on the next episode.